Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyerboxinggame.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. To all the viewers who have left comments on my Danny Green video, and that fight's going to come off in the next, 24 to 36 hours, about the odds, what I want you to do is to go to oddschecker.com. This also applies to all the viewers who write me privately asking for sports books in which to lay action. I need for all of those people to go to oddschecker.com. This is a site you should check before betting on any fight. They have several reputable sports books. You need to check the legality of gambling in your local jurisdiction. But they have many reputable sports books, books that it's my understanding are legal to place bets with if you are in the UK, and they will list their odds on fights. And what you will see is that Danny Green is a 20-1 or better favorite in several sports books listed there. He's a greater than 20-1 favorite at Betfred. In fact, they have him as a 22-1 favorite. And at Bodog, Bayless Sports, and Bet Victor, he's at least a 20-1 favorite. Okay, now I will concede that the spread is bigger than I anticipated. I thought that since Green is a 20-1 favorite, I thought that the underdog, Santiago, would be at least a 15-1 underdog. He's not. They've lowered him to a 9-1 to 8-1 underdog. The casino's getting a huge spread on this fight. Just be aware of it. My basic thesis on that fight, as I've stated in the video, is simply that I don't like Danny Green's weight loss. I think that's a problem. And I believe Santiago has pretty good defense, good enough to survive the first half of the fight. So the play I've recommended is Santiago, even though I think he loses the fight. Santiago to win the fight, so you can get the big odds, the 9-1 odds, straddled against the over. And I further suggested that if that over is, let's say, 6 rounds, great. If it's higher than 6 rounds, then what you might want to do on a prop bet, in addition to taking the over, is to just take Danny Green to win in the 6th round. Okay? Let's talk about boxing economics. This is a subject area where I kind of stumbled into it. I was mentioning boxing purses in videos, and just the fact that there's really no money in boxing. And to my surprise, a lot of people apparently thought otherwise. Right? There seems to be a general perception that the minute you're a champion or the minute you're on HBO or Showtime, you have earned fat dough. Right? You know, you are a well-paid professional athlete. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I'll agree that the elites, the Klitschko brothers, are certainly well paid. Some other fighters, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Money Mayweather, they're well paid. The guys who've been in the game a long time, who get $1 million purses, like a Bernard Hopkins, he's well paid. But most in the sport aren't. You'd be surprised what a hard time professional fighters have just qualifying for basic home loans. Right? I used to live in Southern California. I could tell you that there was a fighter, excellent fighter, who had a belt, who, was in the paper talking about how he couldn't even qualify for a home loan until after his most recent fight. I believe it was Genaro Hernandez, who's no longer with us. And so, just so you get an idea on the economics of boxing, just imagine going to a baseball game or a football game, and there only being 2,667 paid fans there. Right? You would look around at an empty stadium. Right? It just wouldn't be an event that you would consider a packed house or a big event, right? And just imagine, if you were to go to a ball game and you thought that the total live gate was less than $150,000. Understand, if baseball's live gates were only, $150,000 or less, then no player would be making multi-million dollars, right? The economics just wouldn't add up. Well, you might be surprised to learn that the California State Athletic Commission recently released the numbers for Donaire's recent fight against Jeffrey Mathabola. Now keep in mind, this fight was on HBO. Donaire is one of the sport's best pound for pound, right? He's picking up titles. And on this televised fight, and he's fighting in Southern California, you would think it's a glamorous location featuring a champ in a televised match. Now, according to the California State Athletic Commission, and this obviously is setting off car alarms, 2,667 tickets sold for this event. The live gate for this event, all added up, the total gate revenue was $149,246. Now, I have no doubt that these guys were able to pull in some HBO money and what have you. But understand, Donaire did not make millions for this fight. Understand, somebody on this fight actually lost money. If you're the promoter, and I know we like to look at the Don Kings, the Bob Arams, and we like to speculate that these promoters are living large. But if you're the promoter, how much money could you possibly have made when the live gate is less than $150,000? And of course, the fighters have to get paid. Let's go one step further. With regard to the fighters themselves, understand, we talk about the fighters making money, right? We say, oh, so-and-so got paid $300,000 for this fight. But understand, that's the fighter's team that got paid the money, right? The manager will take his cut. And let me just say, it's industry standard that the manager gets 33%. I know some, Al Heyman, will take 10% when he's dealing with a VIP client. But understand, of the money that the fighter gets, that money is then divided before the fighter himself takes anything. What sometimes happens is literally the fighter breaks off 33% for his manager and then has to pay other people, right? So boxing, really, it's an all or nothing. You're either a top contender and a champion, in which case you can quit your day job, or you're a lesser contender and you still have to work a job, right? As I pointed out, Victor Ortiz's trainer, Danny Garcia, his former trainer, as recently as the Floyd Mayweather fight, was working a job and was training part-time, right? You have many guys, Powell Wolak, who would have to take off time from work to fight in televised fights. That's the reality of the sport. Now let's talk about further economics and roles. There is a big breaking story. Boxing dovetails very well with music, right? You need to view boxing matches really economically as a series of concerts, right? It's the same economics, right? It's the same thought process. Let me just say that boxing dovetails so well with music that many big players in the sport actually learned the ropes and are still active in music, right? Al Heyman, is actually a giant in the music industry, right? An argument can be made he's bigger in the music industry than he is in boxing, and he's huge in boxing, right? Shelley Finkel, you need to know that name. He's an advisor to the Klitschko's, right? Finkel at different times has been an advisor to some of the biggest names in the sport. Oscar De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, back in the day, right? He's still involved in an advisory capacity. He also was big in the music industry. James Prince, the founder of Rap-A-Lot Records, is the manager for Andre Ward, among others. He's also big in boxing. Now, 50 Cent recently announced, or it was announced, that 50 Cent is now a boxing promoter. You need to keep an eye on him. I track a lot of people involved in the financial world. CashUpdate.info, for example, is a site I run. And 50 Cent is a mogul. Don't think of him as a performer, because that's only part of the picture. Don't think of him as an actor. That's only part of the picture. You need to think of him really as a economic player, right? He's a CEO. Now he's moving into the boxing game, and he's doing it in dramatic fashion, right? He doesn't want to be an advisor or a manager. He's actually coming in at a higher level, that of promoter, right? His group is going to be called the Money Team, TMT Promotions. And he's already signed 2 names you might know: Yorkis Gamboa and Andre Durrell. Let me also point out, too, you need to know 50's roots. Like me, he's from Queens, New York City. I'm just here to tell you, Queens is one of the biggest African American communities in the entire country. Understand, New York is a boxing mecca. You have so many champs from New York that it's hard to keep track of all of them, right? Not just heavyweight champion Mike Tyson, not just heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe, and yes, these guys are from Brooklyn, not Queens, but it's all the same city, right? We're just talking about different boroughs now in the city. But understand, in addition to those 2 heavyweight champions, you also had heavyweight champion Shannon Briggs. And of course, you have, Zab Judah, Monty Barrett. Barrett's a Queens guy. Mark Breland back in the day. Joshua Clottey, Bronx. Now, I know he's from Ghana, right? Joseph Egbeko, Bronx. Now, I know he's from Ghana. And of course, one of the sport's most hallowed venues, the site of perhaps its biggest fight since Jack Johnson Jeffries. We can debate it. The Ali Frazier first fight, and that's Madison Square Garden, right? And keep in mind, the Garden's still riding high. The Cotto Margarito rematch was in the Garden. Now, 50 Cent knows his way around New York City, as you can imagine, right? Having been raised in New York City, people in New York City know 50 Cent. I'm just here to say that the African American community, particularly in Queens, is underserved. And if you get a big-time boxing promoter with local credibility, right? If he were to, let's say, open up a gym, extend his brand on Jamaica Avenue in Queens, and Queens people know where I'm talking about, that gym would be packed. He would have the upper hand, quite frankly, in recruiting local talent, and the talent base is deep. As it is, he has a Detroit fighter. Talk about a city with a rich history in boxing, right? Joe Louis, the Kronk Gym. He has Andre Durrell right now. All I'm saying is a savvy entrepreneur like 50 Cent can literally tap into some of the deepest talent bases in the United States in terms of recruiting. Right now, let's talk about the sport so you understand why 50 Cent as a promoter is big news. Understand that really it's the promoter who actually operates the event. He's the one taking the short-term financial risks, right? He signs deals with the artists, if it's in music, or the fighters, right, through their management teams, right? That's where the boxing manager is. Now, unlike Heyman, Finkel, and Prince, who are at the managerial level, 50's literally coming in at the Bob Arum, Golden Boy, Don King level. So 50's group would be the group that rents the venue, that sells tickets through a broker like Ticketmaster, that arranges concessions, sales of food, beer, right? That arranges security, that does the advertising for the event, that gets the insurance in case of event cancellation or some kind of fire mishap or injury, right? And that also deals with the pay-per-view providers or the television stations, right? It's a very high level. You need to keep an eye on this development because it's big, not just because of 50's affiliation with Floyd Mayweather, perhaps the biggest name in boxing, but also because of the times. You know, old promoters right now are on the way out. You know, Father Time eventually is going to cause changes. Don King and Bob Arum are both in their 70s. Understand, in a personal business where, you know, you're dealing with talent, any kind of talent agency, you're going to have a lot of fighters who, if something should happen to Don King or Bob Arum, if they should leave their respective organizations, there are going to be many fighters who won't want to stay with their successors in the organization, right? They will feel that they had a personal relationship with Bob Arum. And if Bob's not there, then they're going to look elsewhere, right? There's an opening for new blood. I'm sure Gary Shaw, Lou DiBella, they sense the opportunities. They're putting themselves on the map as well, right? And also keep in mind, and I know there is a young promotional group out there, Golden Boy, but understand some fighters might not want to sign with Golden Boy because they want to fight and compete against Golden Boy fighters. And they might feel that Golden Boy is too committed to, let's say, Saul Alvarez at 154 pounds, and these fighters might want to be with someone different, just like Sergio Martinez at 160 has chosen not to be with Top Rank, who has Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., but to be with DiBella Entertainment, right? So there are openings here. Everyone is jockeying for them in the promotional game. And keep in mind, there are not a lot of minority promoters in a sport that has a lot of minority fighters. Let me just say, too, you know, Gary Shaw, as great as he is, might not know his way around Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx like 50 Cent does, who was raised in New York City, right? So keep an eye on 50 Cent. I think it's big news. Let me also point out, too, that boxing's definitely moving even further in a music direction, because now before fights you have the equivalent of music videos, right? You have HBO 24/7. They're promoting it right now, right? You have in the UK, you have Box Nations, outside the ropes for, their pre-fight, where Hey Chisora, you got to see both of these guys talking about what happened. You got to see films of both of them in marketing the fight. The marketing is definitely taking on a music industry tilt. You can imagine someone involved in the making of videos and things like that might know how to put together their own 24/7 equivalent, right? And so I really do feel that 50 Cent is literally awfully close to being a big player in the sport. You need to keep an eye on that. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. And of course, for economic issues and outside the ring issues, DwyerBoxingGame.com. Thanks for watching.